Next, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Jonathan Keller. Jonathan flew in from California last night to be able to speak to you all today. He's the president and CEO of California Family Council, the official state partner of Focus on the Family, Alliance Defending Freedom, Family Research Council, and the California Southern Baptist Convention. He works to promote the dignity of life, strong marriages and families, robust religious liberty through California's church, capital, and culture. He joined the CFC in 2014 after more than a decade with Right to Life of Central California. He's also an Eagle Scout, a husband, a dad, and he's also a partner to the March for Life in our state march initiative. So, Jonathan.
Well, hello, everybody. It's great to be with you, both those of you in person and those watching online. Man, what a wonderful morning, and it is so encouraging to hear all of the news about the future of the March for Life. I know as a state march partner now for the last several years, we have been honored and privileged to be able to work alongside Jeannie and Aaron and Catherine and the entire wonderful team working on the state march. More than ever, the partnership between Washington, D.C. and each state capital is crucial. As Dr. Roberts said, this is going to be a 50-state movement from now on to defend life. We cannot abandon either the work that happens here in the capital or in each of the 50 state capitals. Every single state, from Florida and Texas to New York, and yes, even California, has a critical role to play. The culture of death is pervasive, and it's amazing to think that it has taken us 50 years to abolish abortion, but praise God, we are finally here. But this is, as Jeannie said, only the next step in our movement. This is not the end. As Winston Churchill might have said, this is only maybe the end of the beginning. And it is vitally important for each state, as Jeannie said. I'd love to see it sooner than 7 years for every single state capital to have a robust and thriving state March for Life program. Look, we cannot simply abandon blue states and retreat to red states. I know that's very tempting. I talked with a lot of my friends in California who are now former Californians who have left and moved to one of the other good states. But I have to tell you, you may not care about what happens in California, but California cares about you. And yes, that is supposed to sound ominous because it is. Governor Gavin Newsom and our legislators in the state of California are not content to simply allow the rest of the country to become pro-life. They are not content to allow even nationally our nation to become pro-life. They are fighting tooth and nail to preserve and even expand abortion through a beachhead in the state of California and in other blue states. Let me give you an example of this. Before the Dobbs v. Jackson decision was even argued at the United States Supreme Court, Governor Gavin Newsom and a group of 40 local, state, and national organizations in California put together something called the Future of Abortion Council. Now, they were not mincing any words. They did not call it the Reproductive Justice Coalition or the Women's Rights Frontiers. It was literally the Future of Abortion Council. They worked together and they introduced a policy document. They actually released it immediately after the arguments in Dobbs v. Jackson in December. And that document had 45 specific policy recommendations. It was an in-depth white paper and also a flag in the ground of how California wants to become the abortion tourism destination for the entire country. And tragically, just weeks ago, Governor Newsom signed a package of over a dozen of those bills into law. Many of those will go into effect this January. And as an example, one of the most egregious of those, SB 1142, directly now puts state money behind some of the so-called abortion benevolence funds in our state, which means we are now paying, my state is paying for every one of the rest of your states to fly patients, to fly women to the state of California to receive so-called reproductive health care. But it's a very specific kind of reproductive health care. It's not OBGYN care, as Dr. Duane was talking about. It's not infertility treatment. consistent with life-affirming principles. It's not prenatal surgeries for children that are at high risk, or even labor and delivery for mothers that come from parts of the state that may not have adequate services. It is only one specific type of reproductive health care, and that is abortion. Our state is now offering tens of millions of dollars for airfare, for hotels, for abortions, and yes, even most perversely, if you read the language of the bill, it explicitly says if you come to California to have an abortion, we will reimburse you for your child care expenses. Planned Parenthood and California would be happy to end the life of a child in one room while they are babysitting their older sibling in the room next door. In addition to that, on a personal front, Governor Gavin Newsom has gone even a step further. And he is, again, not content to merely allow these policies to passively exist in the state of California, but he is now promoting those policies through a new website, abortion.ca.gov. The remarkable thing about this, again, is there is no pregnancy.ca.gov. There is no even healthcare.ca.gov. This website, a top-level domain state website, is existing for the sole purpose of promoting and marketing abortion to the entire rest of the country. And Gavin Newsom is so committed to this, and our legislature is so committed to this, that Governor Newsom used his own campaign funds to put up billboards advertising this website in multiple red states across the nation. He is quite literally recruiting people from each of your individual states to come to California. You may not care about California, but California cares about you. One of the most perverse ways that he used this billboard was not only talking about the fact that California has your back when it comes to abortion, but actually using the very words of Jesus Christ in the Gospel of Mark to promote and market abortion. Let me show you very quickly what I mean by that. I have a short 60-second video that addresses this.
Proud to be able to put those billboards up, proud to be in a position to be able to afford it and do so through the campaign. Our donors are asking for more of that. They believe in women's freedom and right to choose.
Truly loving your neighbor means letting them live. That is the next step that we need to take across this country, is responding to a culture that lies about what life is, about what love is, and what especially loving your neighbor is. Again, we are not able to just retreat to conservative pro-life parts of the country. Every single state, especially every single state capital, must have a role to play in this. If your state does not currently have a state march, I urge you, contact our friends at the National March for Life. Reach out to them and ask what you can do to help make that a reality in your own state. As Dr. Martin Luther King famously said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one indirectly, or whatever affects one directly, affects all indirectly. We cannot allow the perfect to become the enemy of the good. We cannot, as Dr. Roberts said, be absolutist in our goals, but we have to be as tireless and fearless as our friends on the other side of this issue have been for the last 50 years. If you go back and you look at, for example, the abolishing of the slave trade in England, William Wilberforce first had a meeting of the Society for Effecting the Abolition of the Slave Trade May 22nd, 1787. It was 20 years later that the Slave Trade Act was passed and received royal assent. But it was an additional 26 years after that that the Slavery Abolition Act was finally passed in August of 1833. I sincerely hope that it does not take us another 26 years to completely end abortion in the United States. But no matter how long it takes, we must prevail. We have to work in this together, from the Capitol in Washington, D.C., to every single state capital across this country. The next steps of marching into a post-Roe America are going to involve every single one of us at every single level of government, at every single level of our churches and our families. This is going to be a huge lift, but together with all of you, I know that we can do this. Thank you all. Keep up the great work. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It's so good to hear from you, and thank you for flying out from California.